course, during the pandemic, and we're going to spend some time with the Name It team, Name It of New York. This is very special for me because I was a member of NAMIC for probably about 10 to 12 years in various locations. So I really understand the value and the meaning of the partnership of driving community, especially within the media organization. So I'm glad to be here with you guys. So today we're going to be talking about a great subject and topic, talking about from from idea to IPO. We're the Whiskey Hill, where we dive deep into different topics. We are going to be focusing on a number of different things, but we're most importantly a podcast from three brown startup enthusiasts that pull back the curtain on business, culture, and side pieces. Not that type. We're talking like emerging media, e-games, cannabis, without the bullshit, and most importantly, over.
America calls Clyde Black, Athul Brown, and Anthony somewhere in the confusing middle.
Here we go.
Three brothers, various shades of brown, bringing you the latest in tech, business, and startups, mixed with a ton of sarcasm. Cue the music. This is me ghetto as hell. Wait.
I have to edit some of that out.
Loud? Oh, snap. All right. All right, Fade. You like that fade? You like that fade?
Ladies and gentlemen, Teddy Riley.
Come on, Teddy.
Get it together. Get it together.
Let babyface take over. Let's babyface time. Let's go.
So what we want to do today was we want to kind of run through our normal format with the Name It crew as our special guests. Today we're going to talk about, as I mentioned, the concept of ideation to IPO, and talk about how our individual experiences kind of touch on each one of those phases within the process. I myself, as someone who's been in the startup community for the last 7 to 8 years, took a company from startup to scale up to eventually going through IPO, with growing the company's businesses, units and customers from 2.5 million to 13 million customers. And we ended up going public on the NASDAQ. I didn't get rich, so I'm still working for a living. But
he's rich. He's lying.
Yeah, look, you gotta see that estate. Okay,
it's a gated community. Even the employees on the estate have a gated house themselves. That's how rich this kid is.
We gotta get a special password to get into his property. Okay.
Hilarious. But yeah, so each one of our individual experiences have really relate to the topic that we're going to be discussing. We want to empower and give the Name It community kind of the tools, if they're even thinking about a business, an idea, and kind of provide and impart our insights and experience on each of the different phases. So before we kick off, like we always do, what you guys been up to?
Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, me? Oh,
yeah,
well,
you can.
Well, this is since it's quarantine Anthony, and since Anthony's been doing the contract thing for the past, 2 years? Contract stuff has been nice and slow. So, and which is great towards this topic, is now I'm really focused on my own stuff. And I'm getting to the phase about to put together a prototype myself. So this is nice. Perfect timing, and lines up perfectly with our topic with the Name It New York crew.
So I'm gonna be the only broken on this podcast. Damn,
that's the goal. That's the goal. That's the goal. We got to do a switch here. Okay.
Yeah. So it's week 2, and since we're going to be revisiting some of our greatest hits from week, we're going to bring in some of the things I want to discuss. Something I discussed 2 weeks ago. I can confirm that flowery hand sanitizer with no alcohol does not kill the Rona, but it is killing my testosterone. Right. So. I got no alcohol, ain't killing smack, right? So I'm this close to binging all the Tyler Perry Medea movies by myself. My wife's gonna just slap me when she comes in the room, and so that's how bad it is.
Come on now.
If a man's been watching those
100
alone,
million in the box office. Step off.
No, I'm the dude's dope, but damn, if you're binge watching as a guy alone, that's just you got some issues, man. That's what I'm saying. With some tissues.
So wrong.
My hands are extra soft though.
You're watching Medea. I'm on YouTube watching old games from 10 years ago. That's what I'm watching.
They had a spelling bee
1984.
I saw a high school basketball championship from 2007. Like, I don't know, watch that. But then my people came in. We had a spelling bee championship. We winning. Clyde, what you been up to?
So for me, I've been took some of your advice from a couple of episodes ago where you're talking about the dad bod, right? So I started running again, and it's
Damn
been it's been fun, but it kind of goes to a specific topic that's been taking over the news right now. So I want to just make sure I mention that um, about Aubrey Maud, who was tragically shot down while going out jogging. So I've been watching the news, making sure I stay abreast. I encourage everyone to go to the website. I think it's Run with Maud, www.runwithmaud, and check it out and sign up, petition. It's tragic. I know this is a community of multicultural, so definitely voice your concerns. And I've been running, but now I'm running with a purpose. So make sure you go out there and make that happen. So yeah,
Nice.
that's what I've been up to.
Nice.
Cool.
What about Carvel, Radia?
Carvel, Radia.
What you guys been up to? Name it.
Busy.
Talk to us
Work
about, talk to us
work is
about a little bit about
busy.
Name It.
NAMIC, we've been very busy, keeping our members engaged. We've had lots of programming over the last month and a half, whether it be, COVID-19 stuff, how to get money, obtain funds, going forward, going through all this stuff. And then also, building your brand. We've had networking workshops with Jason Patria in the last month. So we've been keeping busy and, lots of stuff for our members to join on.
Great.
Yeah, we're trying to keep everyone engaged. I know this is a transition for everyone.
Yeah.
This is a different type of learning, a different type of connecting. So we're just trying to stay kind of a little bit ahead of it, so our members and non-members also can just benefit from, engaging with us.
All right, great. It's a much needed service. I mean, I know I go back to early in my career where I was always at NAMIC events and made sure I was there for the Christmas parties as well. So
Christmas parties. Oh,
I know that everybody looks forward to the holiday party.
yeah,
Christmas parties back in the day.
That now and the NAMIC after party, everybody looks forward.
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys in the NAMIC after party, y'all took it to a whole nother level, man. We were trying to do that at my time, but
We did. Hey, Anthony, we did 48 Lounge, right? That one time.
we did the 40 Lounge to kick off the year, and then
Kick off the year,
then
yeah.
that
was
one
dope.
year, my last year as president, I did the casino night.
Oh,
That
nice.
That was good.
Right.
Yes.
People love
That
casino
was
night.
good.
I spent a lot of money on that one.
Yeah, we love the casino night. Yeah.
There's a lot of money spent. I think Nicole took over the next year. It was like, Aunt, you left me with nothing, dude.
Right.
Man, I'll be honest with you. I was a treasurer. That happened like week 2, man. After that 48 Lounge.
yeah, we spent a lot of money.
Nice place, but
It cost a lot of money.
I don't know if we're the right people if you're talking about spending money wisely. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we were spending money like we work. Okay.
don't get them started. SoftBank is a sore subject for them. So,
Yeah.
Garbage.
We'll get to that a little bit later, probably.
All right. Let's focus.
But with the whiskey hue, of course, with the whiskey being in our name, every episode, for all of our listeners who don't know, we pick a new whiskey every week. We feature it. We kick it off and let you know what we're sipping on. Today we're sipping on Uncle Nearest 1856. Hold it up. It's one that we've done before, but it's near and dear to my heart. So for the audience, I wanted to make sure I brought it up to the community, and it's one where we'll be sipping on it, and then at the end of the episode, we'll talk about flavor profiles, what we thought about it. If Anthony's not too drunk, we'll one episode he went in too hard, but
one episode, and then it stays with you forever.
no, I can't.
Just one time I slipped up. Just
One
one time.
time.
I'm not gonna let me forget it.
Not
They
at
got
all.
diseases like that too, man. You just got to be careful out there.
So what I say is most importantly, drink responsibly. But just a little bit about Uncle Nearest. It was created to honor the whiskey making process of the person who originally was touted as the godfather of Tennessee whiskey, Nathan Nearest Green. He was the first known African American master distiller for Jack Daniels, the brand that's the #1 whiskey in the world. And most importantly, it was discovered in 2016 and kind of brought to life when Fawn Weaver, who's the founder and owner CEO of Uncle Nearest brand, and she read an article in 2016 New York Times highlighting the story behind Nearest Green and his family and how he kind of contributed to the development of the best-selling whiskey Jack Daniels. And then from there, Fawn kind of researched it, dug it up, created a whole brand and company behind it. And today we have a Black-owned, woman-owned whiskey that's delicious and is great and kind of honors our heritage. And one that
Amazing.
we're going to be sipping on today during the Whiskey Hue.
Nice.
Nice.
That's amazing. Yes.
That's really good.
We'll
Now,
support.
where
We'll
can
support.
people find that at?
Most liquor stores, obviously go online, Google search.
Right.
Most liquor stores you can find it. And it's a pretty mid price point, anywhere between like
Okay.
$42 to $50, depending on what your store charges. But you know,
What state you're in?
it's definitely
Yeah.
a whiskey to have in your playbook, and most importantly, has a great story behind it. So
Yeah,
what we'll
definitely.
do, we'll dive deeper into the flavor profiles a little bit later. But I'm gonna take a sip to that.
Boom.
All right.
Thank you, man.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Very nice. Yes.
Nice.
So today we're going to be talking about startup ideation to IPO, something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. At the Whiskey Hue, we talk about business, tech, culture, and what we want to do is kind of dive into the process from beginning to end. As we know, a lot of entrepreneurs are out there thinking about businesses during the pandemic, launching businesses during the pandemic, doing research, taking master classes, etc. So this is a part of that, and you know, there's a pretty much multi-step process, but we kind of distilled it down to ideation, your MVP, growth, funding, and then most importantly, cashing out.
So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So kicking off with the ideation process. What I want to do is open it up to one of the fellows to dive deep into, specifically Anthony, because he's an expert in this space.
Yeah, like so most of the people I've worked with have been in the ideation phase all the way to around MVP space. So, like everybody has an idea, right? There's always someone who has some kind of, massive idea that's either going to beat Facebook, it's going to beat Amazon, it's going to beat whomever, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think you start with your idea, you have your vision, and then it becomes one of the situations knowing what you're really trying to do, right? Are you really trying to go head to head with some big boy? Or are you trying to find a niche into that market that you're really going after? And that's really where it comes down to. It comes down to from, really understanding where you're really going after the target audience or the target product. But after that is research, right? So you can't just go in blindly, right? And I'm pretty sure, listen, I know the Name It crowd and I know the Name It New York crowd. These are sharp people. So you go do your research. So depending on the product and the category market that you're going after, you need to do some, survey research as well as potentially academic research. So if it's healthcare, you might want to do some academic research around it, like even retail or apparel. There are tons of sources out there. So you want to know how the market's really moving, right? You don't want to start creating a product that someone else is launching that day and you're behind the 8 ball already and now you're stuck, right? You put 3 years into it and now you're stuck. But doing your research and finding companies that you can do your surveying, try to target certain people. I'm trying to make sure what features you're looking for, where you're trying to go, and kind of really put together a game plan towards going from idea, research to next step. And do you guys want me to do the prototype thing? Because I keep on going, man. So after you do your research and you kind of know, hey, this is what my product is, and here's some of the features, like main features that I'm really trying to focus on, right? I think I know my audience, right? Because no one really knows your target audience until your product is out there in the market. It kind of changes. It can change and it will change. But so the first step is like you hear MVP, right? MVP, the minimum viable product that we're going to touch on a little later. There's a prototype, right? The prototype just is a sketch, almost roughly a sketch design, right, of how your product really looks. And it just has the main features. It kind of gives people that you want to show, which could be just your friends. It could be someone who might want, family or friend who wants to give you some cash, how this product kind of is going to look. Usually you can, depending on who you talk to, it could be literally a sketch. You get some artists who can sketch it out, or you get a friend or someone who's a UX designer who can build a prototype, and that cost can vary, right? If
one example of that, great story that I heard from about Tristan Walker, the creator of Bevel. he when he was starting this company, you can find this on a number of different websites or resources. But one of the things he did when he founded his company at Bevel was he didn't really have the capital to create a new product, which is the original straight razor. So what he did was is he went to a product design company and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing a straight razor. I need some designs." This company was like, "Okay, great. We're gonna build you 4 models. You can take the designs, and if you end up creating one, you just have to pay $10,000 once you decide to create it." There are innovative and creative ways that you can get your product designs out and develop. Just do your research, like Anthony mentioned, but it doesn't stop you from getting off the ground and getting to a place where you can see a product model, a design, and then you can hit the ground running.
Well, so one of the things I want to highlight, and so all the naming people know this, is that you're already networkers, right? Like you're already trying to put yourself out there. So it's now for you, if you're trying to jump into a tech product, shoot, even if it's not a non-tech product, right? You got a network. And if you don't have, you're not Mark Zuckerberg, or you don't have friends who are product designers or engineers, developers, you got to get out there and network. Go to all these events, find somebody, join meetups, and meet all these necessary people that can kind of, if you're, you might be able to say, listen, come on board. We can share in this growth process. Go old school. They'll try to keep it all in your house.
Yeah, and then at this phase right now, you're thinking about ways to just get something off the ground. Put together your business plan, get ready for your MVP, like Anthony mentioned, and get to a phase where you can start having the conversation around how much is it going to cost to develop my product? Do I want to spend my own money? Do I want to figure out how to get friends and family involved? There's a number of different ways that you can get some funding to get it off the ground, but at least get all the information on paper, get prepared to do a deck, and get ready for your minimum viable product for your MVP, which leads us to the next phase of the process, which is all around getting prepared to have an actual tangible product.
One note we should leave on there. So the research is extremely important, but even that Bevel example, cashed out, did well, got acquired. That's a great success story. But as we were talking about on an earlier pod with Chad, right? Even saying there was a lot of money. Our man, you want to name drop from the data community. So there's a lot of money was spent on research there, right? So that kind of he didn't get the cash out of the clip he could have. So try to keep all costs at a minimum up front as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
When you say
be frugal. Frugal as hell, right? Like you got to be frugal. Like think about ways to like, even if you got to come, a fool's the first person that tells me, and we've had our conversations like, dude, you need to save. You got to save your own money for a little bit of time to come out your own pocket, so you're not giving away equity.
Yep.
Too much equity early on. Then do your best to try to come out of pocket, but that's not going to be everybody.
Yeah.
Or you got to be creative, right? Yep. So one of the biggest examples I like to reference is the Airbnb team when they first got started. They kicked off, they were pitching the idea, trying to raise funds.
Did you see that deck? Did you see that?
Yeah, they have like
deck is sick. It's sick.
That's sick. It's like some kindergarten did it.
Yeah, but it worked. It worked, right?
It worked.
The best. It was one of the
we want
best.
simple. Yeah. You showing us decks. We want simple. Go ahead, Clyde. I cut you off, but we want simple because people think they keep putting all this, too much information in these decks. We'll get into that in a minute. We'll get it. Go ahead, Clyde.
Yeah, no. what I was just gonna say, just to wrap it up, is thinking about funding. They had a genius idea. It was 2007. I think it was Obama, McCain, and then election. What they did was they created 10,000 cereal boxes. 5,000 with McCain, 5,000 with Obama, and they went to the national conventions for each of the parties and ended up selling out all the boxes at like a crazy profit margin. And they used that to kick off their funding for their product. So I mean, that's something that you can Google, but just being creative and figuring out ways to get your idea and product off the ground. They weren't in the cereal business, but they figured out a way to attack the market. And it's a great story, and one where actually VCs who heard that was like, you know what? I don't know much about these guys, but they took the idea, ran with it. Yeah, we're gonna invest in them.
We like dudes who can hustle and figure things out. We'll talk about that later. Yep.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Athul's the money guy. He's the one who gives out the money and buy into companies. We just like to hang out with him.
I live in Clyde's garage. You know what I'm saying?
So
Yeah.
no, it gets us to the MVP. Anthony, you want to kick that off?
Well, so yeah, if you want me to, because I'm there. But no, so the prototype, like I said, it's a sketch design, right? And that's to kind of test out the assumptions in your that you did from your research, understand a little about your audience. There's no engineer or developer really needed at that point, right? So there's a lot of conversations about developer, engineer. You don't need those guys for the prototype, really. But when you get to the MVP, that's when you start have to have a conversations with a developer, right? To kind of really, because this is like your beta version of your product, right? This is the version that you can go. I can send it to all the Namic New York, and they can all give me feedback on how this product really works. Because it's going to be a little bit, I like to use a friend of mine uses the term like the pipes are connected, right? At this point, it's connected to the street a little. So now it's flowing. If the information is flowing, but it's not the full every feature, everything connected. It just gives you, all right, now I can take the feedback. This feature is really working on this page, and it keeps on going down the funnel of how the product is supposed to work. And you take that feedback again, and this is what you kind of get ready to go to people like the fool and start saying, hey, or your friends or your family, and go, hey, I got something here. I want you to really check this out. And if you're feeling it, this is where we start talking some cash.
And this
Start
is
really
where all the
growing.
companies you hear about who started in the garage or started in the basement. This is the point where they're at right now. Like they have an idea, they got it on paper, they created the first version of it. It may work, it may not work, but the overall thinking is that the idea is one that can have legs, and you can add on to it and make it work and grow over time.
Look, Apple started in a garage. A lot of things start in climates like we're in today. So we're in a recession, right? And so technically a recession takes 2 quarters successively to call it a recession. Unfortunately, this last quarter, even though it was an extreme dip, it was only the last month of it. So the first 2 months were decent. They were solid. So they're not going to count this recession really by technical terms till like quarter 3. But look at Uber. Uber launched in a recession. And investors at that point were looking at them, hey, this is a ride sharing platform, and they're a matchmaker. They don't own anything. They don't have no traditional employees. Their costs are down at that point, right? And then so it's, you don't want to be in a fixed cost business. So that they were in a perfect place, and compared to them to Hertz rental car, they have a ton of overhead and they're hurting right now, and they may not make it out of this if you're looking at the business model. So if you can reduce fixed costs, if you can have some variable pricing, all of that, we're going to get into all of this at some point.
Yeah,
but now's a good time to launch. If you've got a good, not just any idea, if you got a good idea that can gain some traction, get out there, because a lot of things are born out of this time.
Yep, just launch it, get some customers, and be ready to go. And then once you launch your business, you want to put together a pitch deck, right? We talked about pitch decks earlier. This is all during the MVP process. You have a product, it works. You can identify a specific market or target customer that you want to go after. And sometimes, people overthink it. Us being in the media space where we're typically used to doing 75 to
Do not do the
80-page decks and taking all that time.
Nope.
No, guys like Abdul be like, yo, what am I doing? I think what number did you say you looked at last year?
Let me pop in on this for 1 second.
Yeah,
so in 2018, and we know this because when we sent it to the accountant, right? So we went through all our records, a 3-person team with a couple of junior folks. We went through 16,000 decks that year, right? And if you're all giving me 15, 20, 25, 30, nope. And we know within the first couple of seconds, if we want to be down with it and actually keep going through, we'll talk about what you need to prove to us in that business model in a moment, but keep it light. Just get to the point.
And ideally, you want to have between 10 and 15 slides. That's the ideal space. And there are a bunch of different resources you can go after and look at.
I'm a 5-person slide. Listen, that's why I have to hire people. Like I can't. I'm not the guy who's gonna put. You should see
equity to do slides. You hear that, guys?
You should see some of my decks that I put together.
Slides.
You got white paper with some Crayola.
You saw what I sent you guys in preparation for this. I was like, you saw. I just put the format. It was jacked up. Listen, I was in content distribution. We had a marketing team.
Nice. Anthony took he colored something on the sidewalk, took a picture and sent it to us. He's like, man, that's not gonna work. I was playing. All right, go ahead, man. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So 10 slides overall. I recommend going to various people websites. One that I like to go to is a famed VC actually a Morehouse guy school I went to. So, I like to shout him
Uh-oh.
out. Rashawn Williams, you can look on his Instagram and follow him, but he has a section for the best pitch decks. And in that, you'll see that, of the 10 to 14, 10 to 15 slides, what you want to see is, what's the problem? What's the solution? Your market validation. So identifying, what your market is, and then also the market size. Right now, people want to have the opportunity to get an exponential return. If your market size is too small, a venture capitalist is going to say, what, that's a niche business or a lifestyle business or something that you can do on the side. We're not going to want to invest.
Well, so to jump in, when it comes down to niche businesses, like if it's small, do you think there's an opportunity? Because if somebody's going in and it seems like a small market, depending on their industry that they're focused on, is there a way that you a VC or an investor can go, that could be an opportunity to grow it, to grow it to something that's no longer just 5% of the pie, and maybe we can do something with it and grow it to 15% of the pie.
Absolutely. So here, I'll jump in for 1 second. So if you can own a niche space and keep giving value to that audience, and they'll keep coming back, so there's a nice relationship between the provider and the consumer, go for it. Just don't scale too quickly. That's what happened with like Uber we talked about earlier. They scale too quickly and they're hitting this little gap moment, right? And Lyft is going to be in trouble. But if you can, solve a problem for a niche audience, go for it. And to piggyback on what Clyde said earlier, and Anthony as well, you're solving a problem. I want to know as an investor that you've had this problem. You've lived it. You're trying to find a solution to it. And that's going to make me feel comfortable that you're trying anything and everything to get to the bottom of it, right? You mind if I just jump into this real quick? What we're
Go
looking
ahead.
for?
Okay. You want to be
venture spec, and then we'll get into the the money part. The founding team, we want to know that you have experience, the hustle, and you're ready to pivot as needed. Because when an investor comes on, your idea may change a little bit. Just because we don't just bring money, we bring relationships and experience to the table. And then you want to go with people who are in your lane. You want to take smart money, which means if you have a sports idea, go to sports investors versus someone in the healthcare space. They may not have the relationships to help you scale and grow. So sit with the right people. If you're not solving a problem that you've lived organically, it's probably a bad startup idea. Generally, go for it. And return on investment. I'm from a VC perspective, we're expensive. I deter people from coming this way unless they really need it. But then it could be good if it works out. We want to see that we can get 20x return on any money we put into you. Can I jump into the Pluto TV example, or should we wait on that one real quick?
No, go ahead.
So Pluto TV, right? We know Viacom acquired them. Let's say 350
My
mil.
bad.
It was like,
I started. My bad.
No, it was like 340 mil, right? And they up until that point in 5 years before that. So they launched like 2013, 14, 2019. Early, they were acquired by Viacom. Great deal. And that probably helped out in the CBS merger eventually a year later. So because of all the things that they can offer each other from a content perspective and distribution perspective. But they had raised 50 million up until that point. So think about that. So it's a 7x return for every $100,000 some investor put in. They got 700,000 back. That's $600,000 in their pocket, quote, technically.
Yep.
Compare that in 5 years to you put 100K in the stock market, you're going to get a 50% return versus, it's going to, you compounded interest and all that. You're going to get 10% return. Yeah, go ahead.
Made off right now?
What's that?
50% in the stock market?
Bernie Madoff. 50% return. What's going on here?
I'm just saying.
You mean 5 to 7%, right?
100,000 and become 150,000 after 10% return and all that, right? Am I doing that wrong? No, 10%, 110 the first year, 111, 121 the second year. Yeah.
5 years. I thought you said per year.
Let's just make it up and move along, man. Don't make me look bad, all right? I think it's 50% return versus.
You got to hold the line. Hold the line when you make it.
I'm going down with this, damn it.
It's going to live forever.
But you can see the difference. If things work out from a financial perspective, it could be dope from an investor perspective. But yeah, go ahead, man.
What's up? Oh, sorry.
So no, I was gonna say, the rest of the slides for the pitch deck you can find online, but probably the most important thing is, I threw a touch on this. Most VCs and companies look for 5 things. They look for pretty much who's your team, the market idea, how you're gonna scale, how you're gonna grow, in addition to your product, and then the last thing is you as a founder and kind of what you bring to the table. So those are kind of the 5 core things around evaluating startups that I would say came to light, and gets you to the phase where you have a product, you have a plan, and now you're thinking about what do I do next.
Right.
So I think all of us have been at various stages. I've worked at startups who've grown the business, gotten to a point where now they're looking for money. They're looking for either seed funding, Series A. If you've gotten to the point where you've taken money from angel investors, friends and family. You always want to start with friends and family, because if they don't believe in your idea, why would a VC believe in your idea? So identifying which one of those work best, and then following that flows again to Series A, where you're going to get the first round of funding to eventually help grow your product.
Find some rich friends. Find some rich friends. Okay.
Yeah, find some rich friends.
Rich. I was just gonna say some rich friends.
Okay, because I didn't have a lot of rich friends when I first came to the industry, and I had to cultivate some rich friends over a period of time. Namic helped out. Okay, then I started jumping over around. Got to find some rich friends.
Why do you think we're hanging out with Clyde, man?
Yeah, exactly.
So then they get to the most important part, as I like to think, is the growth phase, where guys like me are found and hired.
Clyde's wheelhouse right here. This is his space.
Yeah, this is my space here. Where
Anthony and I gonna take a time out real quick.
Yeah, we're just gonna start drinking. Let Clyde finish the rest of this.
You've just received that Series A round of funding. They're like, all right, go. You had your 5 founding team members, and they're like, go out and hire a marketing guy so they help us grow and scale our business. So what you want to try to do is find the right marketing guy or marketing team or person to help you grow the business. And you want to kind of look at one specific thing after you identify what your product is. But now you want to think about something that's probably most important of all, is your product market fit, and how that works and what markets you can go into, and how will your product satisfy the market you're going after. Because there's a couple of core things. People launch products all the time, but they don't think about who their customer is going to be or what the market's going to be. So making sure you identify that during the growth phase is critical. Identifying who's your customer, knowing who you're going to serve, what's the problem, what's the solution, and then these 3 things equal overall your market. So identifying those are going to be the biggest and most important items of your launching the business and getting through the growth phase. Through the growth phase, you want to see accelerated growth. One stat in order to get to a hockey stick level of growth is you want to, on an annual basis, do 2.5 x annual growth. So if you're in year 1, if you brought in 10,000 customers, we want you to do 2.5 times that the following year, and every year after that. And typically what you see is over a 5-year span, if you can do that and eventually drive to, in the subscription business specifically, if you can drive to a 2.5x times growth, in addition to getting to an MRR, which is monthly recurring revenue of around $10 million plus, you can eventually get to unicorn status, in probably like a 5 to 7 year stage, which is amazing. Which is unicorn status means companies that has a valuation of about $1 billion.
Well, so the hockey stick, we were talking about this the other day. We were talking like, all right, we're going to talk about this hockey stick that people talk about. That's what you like to hear on CNBC, right? CNBC loves to talk about the hockey stick growth. Okay.
All hype.
Yeah. And what about where we're now in, we don't know what the new normal is going to be in the next couple of months, right? As Phil mentioned, like, hey, we're going to, we want this, the market, we're hitting a recession. We don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know if the hockey stick growth is still going to be the baseline of unicorn. Is it going to be a hockey stick growth, or is it going to be a little bit longer runway before you start hitting this pitch, right? So, again, there's a new normal. We don't know what it's going to be, but is there a thing that you guys say, maybe it's not going to be this hockey stick growth that we're thinking about?
If you can get it, Zoom had that hockey stick,
Zoom,
right?
Zoom was an anomaly, right? Like they just came in.
Exactly, yeah. Right. But we talked about this last time. So
we're on Zoom, by the way.
I'd rather be on an Apple product because I'm a big Apple guy. So if FaceTime, if they could figure it out, but Zoom hasn't monetized 95% of those folks that we're using it right now. I'm not paying. I don't think Carvel or Radia are paying right now, right? We're not. It's a beautiful service, and I think another product that they might want to layer on top of this eventually down the road. If you think about this, hey, if you have a sports type of conversation, how can you put that on as a layer onto Zoom? That's where you can start monetizing things. That's where I would start thinking. If I was launching a startup right now, go in your niche and what could you launch that's working? Like Zoom is working, but they're not monetizing. Maybe they need a layer like a sports type of plugin that gives you other sports metrics and all that, right? Think along those lines.
Well, for Zoom is a classic example of, I don't know. I don't know what they've been talking about and what their plans have been before COVID-19 really hit here in the US. But the competition is there, right? Apple already has FaceTime. Facebook is launching their product. They're similar. Well, Facebook's launching a similar product to House Party, right? Okay. And then Google, upgraded or made it free for Google Meet. So we don't know. I would love to see how they competitive analysis on it.
I don't see Zoom lasting.
How are they going to prepare and how are they going to get ready?
Say that again, Clyde?
I said the competition is coming. How is Zoom going to get ready, and how are they going to continue to accelerate that?
Yeah, they can't. They're going to have to be folded into someone larger, right? In my opinion,
be acquired. Who's
not already launching their product?
Exactly right. So like what you're saying is like Google, Apple. I'm sure is looking at something Google already has. I just saw something this morning. Hey, Google Meet is now up and running. Boom, invite your friends.
Yeah, Google Meet had to answer the Google Learning side, right? They had to answer the teachers and the school districts across America who are now using their product. So,
and look, we know this is the future in education, right? They're already talking about in New York. Governor Cuomo is partnering with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to figure out how to reimagine the schoolroom starting in the fall. So it's going to look different. It's going to be a hybrid, probably, right? So things change. Identify what you can add value to in this market because things are changing. This is a reset right now. It's like the Great Depression, 2008 financial crisis, all the things we had in the 80s. There's a great reset happening right now, and we're reimagining what kind of business, how we want to do business and mingle with people and live our lives. There's opportunity right now.
Definitely a big opportunity. So that's why it's important to identify not only your product, market fit, et cetera, and move that forward. So, after you do all that, there are a number of different marketing things that you can do to help grow your business, make sure your customers are being acquired at a proper rate. And probably the most important thing you want to think about this phase is your burn rate. That's probably is the reason why most companies live or die. So give us a little taste of that.
You got burn rate, go away. Yeah, that's all. I'm gonna leave it there. But here's the thing, and we've talked about this a lot, right? So there's people just burning through cash. That's what's happening now with a lot of companies, and they're gonna not make it through, right? So show us that you can operate at a functional, efficient level and still provide tremendous value to your customer, and they'll keep coming back. That's what we want to see. Don't spend an absorbent amount. A lot of companies in the beginning obviously lose money to make money. And then you attract people like us in the room then to help you get to that next level. But if you're burning more than you should be, like right now, so I brought this up on Tuesday, right? Talent is going to be significantly cheaper now because it's going to be truer to book value because we were getting fat salaries popping from company to company in the last 8 to 10 years, right? If you wanted to move right now, if people start losing roles, they'll take a role that they think they can provide. I have a buddy who's a big market exec. He just left a role at a law firm and now he's working at a startup. He was going to sit around, hang out, make music for a little bit because he's done very well. But someone called him and they actually work with my wife's hospital now and like doing some other things. But he got a great call, be a CMO of my startup, and boom, he's not getting what he got at the law firm, but he saw he could provide value to this customer base and really could take them up and not do that. So look for those kind of opportunities. What was the rest of your question, Clyde? Because you know how I ramble.
I'm just talking about burn rate, and burn rate typically means like how much cash you have on hand and what your monthly expenses will be in the going forward future, and what does that rate equal out to? So if you got a burn rate of 10 months, you have 10 months of capital, how much revenue you're bringing in, how much expenses on a monthly basis, and then it's going to last you about 10 months. So pretty much your business is expected to grow out of business in 10 months. So that's one thing you want to think about for burn rate and how fast you're growing revenue. You want to get to a space where your burn rate isn't so fast.
So make sure if you go into the startup space, if anybody, dips and says, I'm going to work at a startup, and find out what series, what level of funding round that they're in.
Yeah.
Right. If they're in the seed stage, understand that one, make sure you try to make sure you get your options equity solid. If you're at a Series A level, and seed, ask, and there's nothing wrong with it. Ask what your burn rate is.
Yeah.
If you want to make sure if you start in January, you'll have a job in March or April. Okay, because like if someone's they're constantly buying food every day, and it's not, then they're spending extra cash.
Yep.
Extra capital.
Yep.
And there's some industries for a fact that are just not going to make an excessive amount of money. Like if you go to, well, let me not even go there. But if you go to certain companies, you just got to be mindful of what their burn rate is, so you have a job 6 months later.
Yeah, be scrappy. You want to make sure the founders are scrappy too. And right now, for a lot of people, if you're looking for a role, let's say I'm on 2 months, 6 months down the road, some folks they want to change or something, whatever it is. You could be a valuable asset to a startup. You could come in if you have a tremendous experience in media, entertainment, whatever it is. You could go into a startup, a smaller company, and say, "Look, this is what I can bring to the table. I can guarantee these kind of metrics and these kind of relationships." You get an equity play as well, right? So position yourself to be as best a catch you can be, then you'll get more money out of this moving forward. Just that's what you need.
Yep. So that's great. So, I just want to close out this section by highlighting that, when you're doing all of this and you're building a business, there are a couple of core kind of data points and metrics that you wanna abide by. I just recommend you just Google Andreessen Horowitz 16 startup matrix, and
The man.
and just live and die by that when you're building your company. Identify all those key data points and build your business around that. And then when you're going to have a conversation with those VCs and investors, you can speak to those specifically. I won't go into great detail, but that's pretty much how you should live and die and think about your business. So, once you get to the Series A, you have a business, you're growing, and then now you're to a point where you're saying, what is my long-term future of the business going to be? Will I IPO? Will I be acquired by another company? Will I just take the cash and figure out ways to make the business
cash and run?
own? So you have a bunch of different
Take the cash and run.
Are you saying at the IPO level to get cash and run? So there's
No,
a lockout period,
saying,
right?
like, just take the cash if you're able to get to revenue positive, and just continue to live off that business as a nice, neat business. So think about how one of your favorite topics, WeWork, how they were doing for a while. They're just taking in Series A, B, C, D, probably F, and just taking the cash and not necessarily going to the public markets, not necessarily turning a profit, but just they had a lot of cash on hand. So there's a bunch of different opportunities. As you build a business, you go from your idea, looking through each of these individual steps, and then thinking about how you can cash out, whether it's an IPO, where you're going to the public markets and people are investing in your business, and you have a lot of different requirements and duties that you have to fulfill, or if you're staying for individual investors on the private side. So a bunch of different opportunities.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of the hot topic we want to talk about for this week. We've been going for about 40 plus minutes. So what I wanted to do was just do a couple of things that we normally do on our podcast, where we, talk about hot topics. We talk about some hot rapid fire, some stocks to watch, and then one of the funnest topics that I like to go over is something we call shit you should know, where we try to share.
Too late. Bleep, too late. Sorry.
Where we go over the hot topics of the day of each one of us bring an idea to the table. So what I want to do is I want to kick off with just kind of a rapid fire. I'm going to say one word, and I want Anthony and Othua to just kind of give a 1 to 2 line sentence around what they think about these topics. And Carvel and Radia, feel free to chime in as well. Give us your expert insights and thinking around the topic as well. So I'm going to kick off with the first one, just a broad topic, and you can distill it down to what you think about it specifically is media as the first one.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, nice. Media. I go opportunity, right?
Oh, nice.
I go opportunity because the landscape is changing and the demand is changing. So if you got something unique, I'm not talking content only, but I'm talking about technology as well. So there's new ways to really think about it. And if you were at the naming conference last year, you saw some players, some people who offer different viewpoints with tech on media.
Well, now that Anthony took everything I was going to say, I'm just going to say change. That's it. Change. Expect change in a beautiful way.
Change in a beautiful way. I would say the next one would be Carvel or Radia. You want to share?
For me, yeah, I would say evolving. The space is definitely evolving. Just where my company alone, the things that we've been doing as far as upfronts are concerned, and
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
in general, everything's just changing. So evolving.
All right. The next one is
Much
tech.
whiskey. As you were Thul, you had
All
to.
right. Tech is resilient because they can be flexible, right? So what's saving Apple right now? Apple sales, let's just look at them, right? Apple
There we go.
sales have been down in the hardware, iPhones, whatever it is. But guess what? Their services are popping up. So they started offering that stream. They can weather pretty much any storm. So they're a truly diverse platform. So Facebook, we talk about this, right? Clyde and Anthony, you're more along this. Auto and travel ads have disappeared. But guess what? Gaming and e-commerce has picked up, not to meet the match, but they're flexible. They're the most in trouble. So they have cash on hand, and these people serve 3 billion people out of 7.5 billion people on the earth. So they're doing 40%. That's great. Tech.
Not bad.
I would go opportunity as again. I know it sounds redundant, but if you're in a media space in a traditional field, this is now your opportunity to learn a new skill set, because it is not. Tech is a part of your personal life. It's going to be a part of your business life too.
Yeah.
So now really hone in on the opportunity to learn. I'm not saying you become a developer, but I'm saying learn how to talk the language.
Yeah, I was
That's a
going to
great
say
point,
something
Anthony. That's great.
similar. Untapped opportunity, definitely. It's there. There's so much that you can uncover and learn and do within the space. It's limitless.
All right. And then the last one I'll mention is diversity.
Diversity, man. Go ahead, man. You got some? Or
Diversity.
I'll pop in for a second if you
Oh,
want.
please,
So like in
please.
the
That's a
08
hard one.
recession, right? So let's look at the 2008 recession.
Hmm.
That was us. America brought the world down. Our bad. China brought the world down this time. They're bad. All right. And we're all trying to work this, figure it out together. Don't hate at me. All right. So the fact, there's a fact that companies that were the stock prices of companies that were more DNI heavy, they outperformed the stock market stocks of companies that were less DNI by 400% because they had different vantage points. And that, I'm just going to leave it right there. It's important.
It's a continued fight, and then even from a tech side, that that Namic is traditionally focused on broadcasting, traditional forms of media, and of course it's expanding, and it has expanded. But even in the tech space, it's a continued fight to make sure we are represented, and whoever we are happen to be, you got to make sure you continuously fight to get that representation. And I think Namic is doing a good job to kind of bring in
absolutely
the newer players, if you want to call them, into the fold to make sure they're focused on diversity.
And I don't think your company will survive without diversity.
No.
You just need that, wide vantage point, different point of views. You just won't survive, especially in this climate.
Absolutely. So then the last thing I'll touch on before we get to the closing couple of items is what stocks to watch.
Oh.
So one that I wanted to highlight is SoftBank.
I'm not even gonna.
I'm just kidding.
not even gonna go
No,
there.
I've crapped on this. I'll do it. I've crapped on them. So from their investment perspective, not great. They're gonna have to figure some of that out. Alibaba, they've invested. They own around 27-30% of them. They're good. If you look at the actual investment company, which is listed on the Japanese stock exchange, they're gonna be dope because they're reimagining what they have to do. They're selling off shares. They're cleaning up the balance sheets. They're gonna invest with more purpose moving forward. I think that could be a good buy as a SoftBank. The stock, the investments. Be clear. I mean, you got to watch out. You just got to know what you're doing.
All right, rapid fire. What about Apple?
Major player, ecosystem focus. They're here for the next couple decades, and they're going to continue to grow. It's not just devices anymore. You look at their earnings reports, you see their services are growing to a major portion of their revenue.
Apple's going to get me to be on Clyde's level someday, I'm hoping. I've been a big fan of Apple, and I love them. Upside.
And then the last one, Amazon.
Boom. Too big to fail.
Too big to fail.
No, I'm serious. Right now, look at that.
Too much.
Right there, 1 point something trillion, and that's 5% of the GDP of America's GDP. We're like 20 something, 21, whatever, 22. People are calling for it to be a 2 trillion market cap, which means if you add up all the stocks that are on the market and the price of those, and you add it all up, that'll be 10% of the entire U.S. GDP. I can't imagine a time when that was possible before. Maybe Rockefeller days, like the original, the OG. When he was running oil, and that's the only time I could see that one company owned that much of a sliver of the GDP.
800-pound gorilla in their AWS division is the monster.
Look at this is supposed to be quick. I know AWS could spin off 3 companies right now from their portfolio.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Amazon, and they could be top 100 companies right now. Some are even top 50. Boom.
There we go. So that wraps up that quick rapid fire. And so I just want to close out for before we get into diving into the whiskey of Uncle Nearest and kind of what we thought, but sharing with the listeners what we're reading, what we're learning, what we're using for information in the subject we call Shit You Should Know. Who want to kick it off?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
So 2 things. I got 2 things. Typically, if you guys listen to our podcast, sometimes I get stumped. So I might not always be prepared.
Phones it in, like, I don't know, just pick something.
But I got 2 things. So there's Afrotech had this, like they had these rising stars. And this is a gentleman called Ofu Izugubu, and I might pronounce his last name. He's a fellow University Temple Owl. He has a platform or a company called Who's Your Landlord, which is good for, I know naming focuses on millennials, not focus, but a lot of millennials, excuse me. The platform's about transparency and useful commentary for day-to-day interactions with rental community. And especially within New York City and the New York area, there's going to be a lot of changes when it comes down to rent. So this might be a great platform to check out. And 2, a book that I've recently finished a week ago. I don't know why I didn't bring up in another podcast, but it's called Losing My Virginity, How I Survived, Had Fun, and Made a Fortune Doing Business My Way.
This could go so many ways, man.
by Richard Branson. You're not going to cut that up and edit that out.
Okay, Virgin. I like it. I get it.
But I'm all for about great books about leadership and how you in different industries and how you made your way in tough times and how you had to believe more in yourself. There's a lot of books about tech guys and this and that, but Richard Branson's an OG also.
It's not like you misplace it, man. You lose it, all right? I'm kidding. All right, since we're doing shout outs to our alma mater, so Mark Andreessen went to my undergrad. You guys got some in, so 20, 30 years before I did, and he's a lot richer than I am.
I went with a young guy. I went with
an old guy who's rich as hell, right? Who I don't know. Anyway, so 2 things: lowbrow, highbrow. All right, I'm gonna keep them higher brow. Jordan Last Dance. I keep talking about it. Watch it. It gives you perspective on the NBA a few decades ago and the GOAT. And I've filed formal adoption papers for Clyde's eldest son, because now after watching the first episode, homie said, Daddy, you were wrong this whole time. Jordan's the GOAT. So I love that kid. He's coming to move with us, right? Now, my highbrow, Ray Dalio. I mentioned him before since it's one of my greatest hits. This guy is killing. He came out with some new information this last week. Ray Dalio is an American billionaire hedge fund manager, Bridgewater Associates, worth like 18, 20 billion, a lot more than me. So, he's killing it in the media game now because he wants to touch this audience, this space. Read about him. So he's got books, Principles, simple book, shares his approach to management, life, investing. Beginner to experience can draw something of value. I know a friend who was beginning investing. I'm a bit more experienced. We both pull a lot from it. He has an app, Principles, with videos, book excerpts, the website, principles.com. He has a film arm. My buddy runs it. It's and they're doing a lot, making documentaries, raising awareness around sustainability, gender equity. And the new important thing that he's talking about, New World Order, kind of helps you appreciate what we're all experiencing with this pandemic. And it has the potential to kind of shatter economic and political systems and, realign wealth and power because it's disruptive. So without giving away too much, he's suggesting that we all learn Chinese at ASAP Rocky. So you know what I'm saying? So that's where we're at.
All right, all right. And I'll close it out with my topic. Forbes 8. Forbes 8 is a digital video network that was created to inspire every phase of the entrepreneur's journey. It's a partnership between Forbes 8 and a African American entrepreneur, a guy I know, a friend of mine, Amos Winbush, who created the network. So it's kind of like TED Talk for entrepreneurs. If I had to, give a simplified answer, they have over 2,000 pieces of content designed to inspire, be as a resource, and equip every aspect of the entrepreneur's journey. It's available on Apple Store and also Forbes8.com, but it's a great resource, and it's one that I recommend for you have like your entrepreneurial coach in your pocket for your mobile app. So that's it.
Well, I got one thing to say. Okay, it's the whiskey's been great, but I want to say for everybody who's listening, who is thinking about jumping out into an entrepreneurial space, if you don't think you have enough of resources, do not let that hold you up. Right, that should be the least of your concerns. Just know that networking can find all the resources you want, and I know Naming does a damn good job at helping out with the resources and networking. So
there you go.
Just wanted to jump in. Boom.
You got a nice audience with Naming New York.
What do you think about the whiskey of the day? The Uncle Nearest 18.
One, we shouldn't be drinking it at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay.
I'm in, all in, man. I got 2 kids. I drink through these problems. All right.
It's kind of earthy, right? Like we talked about this in podcasts before that. I make sure everybody, I'm gonna be the shameless plug guy. Go to Whiskey Hue on all your major platforms and go check out our previous episodes and follow us and subscribe. But it's an earthier taste, and it's smooth. I like it much better. This is gonna sound bad, but I like it better than Jack Daniels. But I don't know.
Oh, Jack Daniels. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm just gonna say, I'll be the bad guy. It's a waste of time. That's what you do in college, right? We got to graduate at some point.
There you go. So for me, it's in line with the type of whiskey I like to drink. It's a little rich, a little creamy, sweet, fruit, a little chocolatey taste. So I like a little flavor with my whiskey. So it was pretty good.
It's remember we had this the first time of your joint, and it was it hit you in the chest, man. I like it. Like Anthony always says, it puts hair in your chest.
Put some
I
hair
gotta
in
get
your
this
chest.
back from my my Medea films, so we're good.
Back to Medea.
I'm this close, man. You know when you start using that hand sanitizer, and you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna make a Drake playlist, and I'm only the songs he sings on." That's bad.
I like Drake, man.
Drake is the genius. That dude is genius. But you gotta listen to the rap tracks. If you only go for the singing stuff,
and with that, ladies and gentlemen,
we gotta get off. It's time to go.
Thank you for listening to us. Namick New York. It's been a pleasure.
This was amazing. Thank you.
Network, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. Check us out on all podcast platforms, and also check us out on thewhiskeyhue.com on our website to get more information. Thanks.
Yes, thank you guys.
We're doing Q&A though, right? Or no?
Okay, if you have time, let's see.
What's up to Clyde? He's a rich one. And Anthony, he's second rich
one. Yeah. Actually, let me scroll through. There was a question.
There was a question from Mia.
Mia, my favorite one from Tuesday. Right? Mia.
Listen, if you got questions, it was for Clyde. It was a question.
Someone asked if you could give a couple examples of grassroots startups who have used that growth plan that you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely, for the hockey stick kind of growth approach. There's one that I can specifically go through. It's Dropbox. Dropbox is a great example.
That's a friend of Namick, right?
Mm-hmm. Say it again.
Friend of Namick. So be cautious. Okay.
No, go ahead.
You're saying good things.
Don't mess up the check, right? No, Dropbox is one that has a great example of that type of growth approach, where they launched their product and they figured out ways to accelerate their growth through viral growth. So one of the things that they did was they're ultimately I forget who the marketing person was, but he's ultimately the creator of the growth hacking strategy.
Yeah.
Thinking about ways to grow their market base and customers.
Is Gary V?
No.
Okay, because that dude's all about that, isn't he?
Well, I mean, it's a marketing term that people use to grow customers in a non-traditional way versus using like marketing tactics. Gotcha. So it can be everything from optimizing your website updating your search analytics and using data to drive most of your growth marketing activity. So
Listen, Dropbox was like everybody.
Sorry. Dropbox is a prime example of that.
Dropbox was like everybody's first introduction to cloud, right? It was literally, I don't think anybody was paying attention to cloud or anything of that nature until Dropbox really jumped into the mix.
Yeah, they killed it. Right. They killed it.
Any other questions?
What else we got?
That's all that I saw.
Chief.
I hope everyone had a pen and paper and wrote these. I mean, you guys were dropping some really, really good gems. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to go back through this recording because this was some good stuff. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you including us in this podcast. It was so much fun. You guys are amazing, funny, brilliant. We're going to send an email out to all the attendees. Maybe if these guys are so gracious, they will give us some of their tips and their quick bites and books and podcasts and all the things that they suggested. Maybe we can send a list over to you guys so you can research. Please subscribe to their YouTube channel, follow them, their podcast. Is it weekly podcast?
Yeah, it's a weekly podcast. You can find us on all major platforms, whiskeyhue.com. You can find us online on the web. But if you go to any platform like Apple Podcast,
Whiskey Hue,
Twitter, as we keep saying, we're about 20,000. We're about 20,000 from hitting that 10,000 mark. So if you can get on there and review us, that'd be great.
We'll get you there.
Number one podcast in the world. Number one podcast in the world. Okay.
Everybody, I thank you so much for joining. We will all be together soon. The first networking event, we will all be together and just celebrate the fact that we have made it through this quarantine and this pandemic, and we will celebrate. So we do have something to look forward to. Yeah. We have weekly webinars such as this called Quarantine and Build. So please follow us on our social media to see what the next one is. We have one week from our Millennial Committee, and it's going to be good. So that is it. Everyone, please be safe. Have a great rest of your week. The weekend's coming up. Have some relaxation time. Enjoy your time with your families or your solo time, whatever you're doing. But please be safe and continue to quarantine, social distance, and let me get mine too.
Yeah, watch The Last Dance.
Michael Jordan. Exactly. I'm gonna binge that actually this weekend. I can't wait. I've been saving it.
Somebody got a bootleg version because it's only season 6, episode 7 and 8. 9 and 10 are coming next week. What do you got? Yeah.
Isn't it on demand? Isn't it on demand?
No, she got connections. That's all I know.
You gotta have connections. Yeah,
What are you, trolls too? You getting everything early? I'm sorry, Universal people. You guys are great.
All right, guys.
Peace.
Everyone take care. See you soon. Bye.